Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Otafest podcast. Did you know that Otafest 2022 early bird tickets are now available? You should be heading to otafest.com for all those juicy details. By the way, I'm joined today with Jay, Dio, and Angelo.
Hello.
Hello. The gang's all together again.
Finally, I've missed you.
We have a full party this time. We have all four.
Squad.
That's a full RPG party.
Exactly.
All right, everybody, just make sure you don't get hit by any trucks.
And bunnies.
Now that we're all assembled,
You
be careful.
Okay, so we're all set for our four-person party for Otafest 2022, which will be a 2-day event rather than our traditional 3-day event. And also, in keeping the interests of everyone's health and safety, we'll be requiring that all attendees have masks and be checking for vaccinations as well.
Did you know? Panel applications are now open. Game shows, discussions, professing your love for your waifu with an 8-hour block dedicated directly about talking about her. Become a part of the confession. What? Oh,
I think I liked that, actually.
part of the confession to your waifu.
part of the confession at Otafest.com.
You're gonna confess to your waifu?
I guess I will re-record that. Panel applications are now open. Game shows, discussions, professing your love to your waifu with an 8-hour block dedicated directly to talking about her. Become a part of the convention at otafest.com/panelists.
All right, so Genshin waifu panel, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
In this essay, I will be defending why Kaya is the best boy. This will be a 6-hour panel block. Please
You
make
heard
sure
of this
you bring
first.
your
We're holding
notebooks,
it
'cause there
to
will
her.
be a test.
I
I'm
would
going to be
like to
having
add
a-
Zhongli to the mix, please.
No.
I will add a 48-hour panel, down talking both of your panels that are all about how Beto is clearly the best Genshin Goyle.
Oh, but what about Ganyu?
Yeah, Ganyu's right there. I thought you
Okay,
were a Ganyu
Ganyu
lover.
is cute and all, but Beto is perfect. That's the difference.
Okay, that is. I was talking about Kaya, so I'll accept that.
Let's be honest. Amber is triple S tier.
I kind of wonder how visceral a reaction our listeners just got from hearing you say that.
Amber is
Yeah, we've started a
best
fight effectively in the
character.
in the comment section now.
Yup.
S tier, more like best tier.
Oh.
See, the way you play, because
Nice.
if you play Amber, that means you're a God-geared gamer who doesn't need help. You just
Exactly.
play
Amber
hard
is
mode.
basically hard mode.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Y'all
you're a
weakling.
built crazy, a built better gamer. Understandable. Okay.
My argument for Amber is that if you're Amber, you get Eula's undying love.
This is true. And for Amber, I mean for Eula, yeah, I would tolerate just about anything for Eula.
Absolutely. So on that
Not
note,
gonna lie,
yeah.
I don't think our panel team is going to approve a 48-hour panel about just one girl. But honestly, like Waifu Wars, if someone was like, we have 48 waifus, and only one will come out on top, it is up to the audience to vote for who wins and who loses the title of best girl. A panel like that would probably get, like, absolutely...
I
A
think that panel's
stampede.
already
No contest.
existed before, so
Yeah, I feel like that's already
like
been done before, and I
99%
feel like
sure.
people enjoy that kind of stuff. Like that stuff is fun and interactive, and that's what community panels are all about, right? It's about getting the community together and talking about the things we all have in common, or the things we don't, like taste in anime girls.
Yeah.
Visceral wars. I foresee this.
Oh,
think
that's
that would be
crazy. Aloy is in from Horizon Zero
Yes,
Dawn's in
yes.
it.
She is.
Aloy
I
from
kept on
Horizon
seeing
Zero
that
Dawn
name.
is in Genshin Impact.
I
Yep.
kept on seeing that name around Genshin. I don't play Genshin. When I said something about Amber, I totally was looking stuff up and trying to trigger people.
Yeah, you were
He
Googling.
went to a
You were
tier
making
list,
sure.
But
Sure.
literally,
Just
I
pick
saw
whoever was at
Aloy.
the
I was just
bottom.
like, that looks familiar because I've been playing through Horizon Zero. I'm trying to finish it because I have a hankering for finishing some of my AAA games, and I was like, it's like Aloy is a pretty unique name, but I was just like, maybe they just copped it anyways because it's like it'd be like the second Aloy, and it's not like there's other characters in games that aren't named like Amber or whatever other names. So I was just like,
Oh, no.
maybe they never did. No, it's an actual collab.
No, it's Horizon
actually
Zero Dawn.
Aloy.
Aloy.
That's
She's a
wild.
cryo bow user. Everybody got her for free. She was an anniversary gift.
That's cool.
Absolutely great.
I mean, I still don't
uh,
care about Genshin Impact. That's the real trigger. But
The concept of a free crossover character
Yeah.
is cool.
Yeah.
You got to get your welfare characters. A gacha without welfare characters is what is even going on here?
it's
I mean,
interesting.
I certainly
They can't pilfer your wallet if they don't give you an incentive to want to have the wallet in the first place.
It's true. And I certainly appreciate when, like, there are a couple of YouTubers who keep popping up on my feed that they actually do reviews and build suggestions for characters based on whether you're a free-to-play player or if you're a whale. I like that.
Yeah. Exactly. So you can figure out how to play the game according to your budget or lack thereof or wish to not have thereof. And that way, if you want to enjoy the gacha, you can enjoy the gacha.
Well, not only that, like there's the easy mode of just being like, okay, I have this 5-star character. I'm gonna put the 5-star weapon on them and the 5-star artifacts. But that's not always the optimal way. There's certain characters where if they have like the 4-star weapon because of its stats or its abilities, it just works better for that character's kit than
Yep.
some of the 5-star weapons sometimes. But
But
getting into the math and the spreadsheets of Genshin could also be a panel all of its own.
indeed.
Microsoft Excel,
Honestly,
the
that-
game,
that-
the panel.
I
That would
feel
probably
like
be a pretty popular panel. Not
I
gonna
feel
lie.
like we could easily name a segment like that, something along the lines of an appreciation for Excel, the Genshin edition.
Yes.
Oh, thanks. I will be taking notes and jotting that down. Yoink my panel idea now.
Excellent. I will be there. I will co-host with you.
Oh my
Perfect.
God!
Perfect.
All these panel ideas we're getting are getting scooped up immediately. What are some of the panels that you guys have run in the past?
Oh, I've run tons of panels.
I suppose that I will start while everyone else starts thinking up what they want to say. So my favorite panel in the past that I ran with Dio was Foul Bachelor Frog Bingo, and it was absolutely glorious. Dealing with that old, dead, tired meme of that green frog doing disgusting things, like cooking macaroni in the same pot for like 2 or 3 weeks in a row.
What?
Who wouldn't? It just adds. It's adding flavor.
No.
flavor
No.
to the macaroni. But like, if you did something that was described on the meme and that was on your bingo sheet, then eventually you could get a bingo and you could be the most disgusting person in the panel and you could win candy. And that was an amazing panel to run.
Admit your sins for candy, the game.
Yeah.
The best part about this panel was we ran it like 3 or 4 times over the course of 2 years. So we got to see our audience grow and become more disgusting over time. And that was just so wonderful.
Wow.
It was both wonderful and horribly cursed.
It's certainly a bonding experience.
Yeah, I mean, everybody would come and just be honest about just the nasty things that they had done.
I learned things about my friends that I did not want to know.
Oh golly.
And that's what friendship is all about. The real friendship was the mental damage and psychological torture we were dealt along the way.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, Dio and I have definitely bonded over some weird stuff.
And that's what the best friendships are made out of.
Love you.
I love you too.
Absolute
Obviously, I've
degenerates.
done voice acting panels, which is always a kick because we'll do things like, hey, we have a script. We wrote it. Or I should say, my partner wrote it. I have no idea what's going on. I'm Nancy. I'm just going to help read. And then we source people out of the audience to come up and read. And I have no idea where the script is supposed to go because I wasn't shown the script ahead of schedule. And it kind of flies off the rails once people start hitting the lines that have no direction. So you're just allowed to say it however you want.
Oh no.
Yeah, it just becomes like an actual disaster anime,
And it's
which
amazing.
sounds wonderful.
It's amazing. Some great performances come out of it, and people have come up and asked us for recordings of it, and we're like, oh god, we didn't hit the record button. Well, we'll learn the lesson for next time.
And the lessons were never
You're
learned.
basically just hosting Ghost Stories, the panel.
Yes, that's wonderful.
That actually is wonderful.
Like that kind of fun community stuff is always like really enjoyable. I know, like I've done. So I was a panelist for a very, very long time. That was my favorite thing to do, was to host panels. And so I often did cosplay panels. Those were the panels I did the most, which is like you sit down and you share what you've learned, or you share techniques. And, you know, tons of people who go to conventions are cosplayers. Like they want to learn how to make props and how to sew and how to, you know, do all of these little tricks and things that people have picked up over decades of trial and error and doing all kinds of freaky things in their closet to make their anime waifu dress up work out. And that stuff was always fun for me because you get to be involved with the community and you get to like also show off things that you're proud of, which is cool, and you get to help other people learn from your mistakes. I've also done fandom panels, like where you have like meetups to talk about your favorite random obscure series. Like we used to do Toho Project meetups for the really, really old gamers out there. We used to do those, and those were really fun. And
Man, I remember one of them at Otafest Light turned into the Toho fighting game tournament.
yeah,
Oh
it
boy.
did.
It was great.
It was amazing. It was just a meetup panel that turned into, well, all the Toho friends, you know, all the people who are a fan of this series are in the same room. We've got a laptop set up. We've got, you know, controllers. We've got a projector. Let's play the fighting game. Let's all play it. We've all played it. Let's play it and have some fun. And it ended up being just a really fun little meetup panel. Those are the kind of things that I miss from like conventions. Like I love getting to meet people who like the same thing that you do.
Oh yeah. Oh, I also remember one of the forum meetup panels, again at Otafest Light. This is way back when there was an Otafest forum. And because it was Otafest Light, because it was around the holidays, there was like a gift exchange. And I can't remember who gave the gift or who got the gift, but it resulted in them picking away at a ball of packing tape the size of a watermelon for like an hour and a half. And I can't remember what was inside of it.
Yeah, I also
All I
don't remember, but I do remember the ball of tape.
All I remember was this person picking away at the ball of tape for the entire meetup. And eventually they got their prize. They got the thing at the middle of it.
Holy cow, that's dedication.
It
Yep.
was great.
Yep. And sometimes, I mean, that's the fun thing about events like Secret Santa and what have you, is like there's always the person who puts a box inside of a box, and it's like this awful Matryoshka doll from just like the UPS packing dumpster that just never ends. And you know, that's kind of the fun. The reward isn't the present, it's reaching the bottom of the boxes.
Although I will say that like it's only fun if maybe one person does it, but if like 6 people in a group of 30 do it, it gets tiring.
That's the worst,
pretty
because then it just
fast.
never ends. Like everyone is unpacking and they're miserable.
Yeah.
See, the way around that is you make a rule where no one can do it, but you make like the thing that we used to do was we would make the group prize, which is that somebody puts a prize, like, or the gift in several boxes, and it's all Matryoshka and what have you, and each person gets to unwrap one layer, and the person who unwraps the last layer keeps the prize.
Oh, wow. I've seen something similar. It was like a ball of elastic bands, so not nearly as bad, but the requirement was that you had to unknot them, and some of them were knotted up and twisted up like on purpose, obviously. And like there were little treats sort of hidden throughout the layers, so once you hit one or once one fell off, you had to pass it off to someone.
Aw, that's kind of cute and fun, and that way everyone kind of gets something.
Yeah, it was cute. I think
Yeah.
that one was done with what are those little gummies that they have individually packed. Anyway, those were like interspersed throughout this giant ball of elastic bands.
That's
And
so cool.
Neat.
it must have taken so long to put it together.
Yeah, like a lot of work. I remember, I think at work one year we did the Matryoshka box thing where with the wrapping paper, and what they would do is randomly interspersed between the layers would be like gift cards and things like that, so that
I remember that.
more than one person would get a prize, which was kind of cool.
I was there. I actually got a $25
You
gift card.
did, yes.
Dio got a $100 gift card.
I did.
Oh.
Yeah, you're right. I did. I got
Balla.
$100.
Balla balla.
We made out like bandits.
We made out like bandits that year.
Yeah.
I didn't even work there. I just showed up.
Yeah,
for the
you were
food.
there as the spouse attending the company Christmas party, but it was a cool experience.
Nice.
Ah, ugh.
Speaking of holidays and the fact that we're in November, holiday time is also vacation time. Did we have
It's the end of the year. Make sure to use your PTO.
Yeah, use it or lose it, and make sure you don't lose it. So use it. But I've heard has anyone in this group been using their PTO or taking
So,
time off and things like that?
You asked that. I've been home for the last 2 weeks because I took vacation. I took time off.
Which is good.
I
did.
had a week off between jobs. Does that count? Not really.
Yeah, that counts. That's a vacation.
Well, it's not really PTO.
Yeah.
It's not paid, but it's also important because a lot of jobs, like when you switch jobs, oftentimes they won't even let you take the break in between. Like you finish at one on Friday and you start at the new one on the Monday, and they won't let you take like a little bit of breather time. So it's good that you ensured that you had a little bit of vacation between positions.
It helped that they have a very regimented and scheduled like set of onboarding. So you just start on the week that they start onboarding, and it just so happened that I had a week between, so I was very happy about that.
That's
Nice.
That's really nice. Mm-hmm. But over my time off, I basically did nothing. I just chilled out, took care of whatever chores that I needed to. Dio's birthday was over the break, so I got to enjoy that without having to worry about going back to work.
Yeah, which is always fun.
Yay!
Yeah.
What about you, Jay? Did you do any vacationing?
I went out to the mountains and then I came back.
Nice.
The mountains.
Nice. That's 2 things. You went someplace and you came back.
Yeah, imagine returning alive from vacation.
Couldn't be me. Could not be
goodness.
Yeah, just did a little weekend
I've
away,
been,
so it was nice.
A little weekend getaway is good, though. Like, that's always good.
Yeah. What'd you
I
get up
know,
to up in
I've-
the mountains?
Yeah, you gotta tell us about it.
Went to La Hot Springs out in BC, and we stayed at a resort
Hot
that had like
Springs.
these townhouses, which were quite nice. And the resort area also had hot tubs, which were arguably better than the actual hot springs, just because they were like a little bit more private and like the environment was a little bit more controlled. But on the whole, there was good times, and it was relaxing, and there was good food, and just got to chill. Haven't gone on a vacation, a real break vacation since I went to Japan, so that would have been at least 2019.
Woof.
Damn.
And I
Wow.
mean, even
Wow.
this isn't
Fair.
like, it's not like the mountains are that far away from us. BC is not that far away from us, depending on which area you go to. But like, it's still
But
nice.
it's a nice weekend trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's nice to kind of just, like, disconnect and know that you have just dedicated time to go enjoy and relax and stuff. And not have to worry about going to work the next day or whatever else. I know I've been using, I've always had this problem, and I think a lot of people my age and younger can probably relate, but I've either never had PTO to use, or, by the time I have the opportunity to use it, I'm moving on elsewhere. So I made sure to use some of my PTO this year, which has been pretty good. So, I never, obviously, like, traveling hasn't really been a thing. But, I took a couple days off for my birthday, which was really fun because it's always nice to just get to enjoy your special day doing, like, fun stuff. And I took a couple days off this week, so I get to have sort of like an extended long weekend type of thing, and it's good. I'm understanding why so many places, like whether it's school or work or you talk to any kind of like professional service, they tell you that like you need to like make time for you need to like use your vacation time, you need to take breaks. I'm really understanding that like, yeah, you feel when you're not worried about when you can next have a break, you don't get stressed out or burnt out as quickly. You feel more rested, and then when you go back to work or school or whatever it is you're doing, you really do feel like ready to go back and be focused and productive again. It's nice.
That's the thing I miss most about school. The fact that there's always a scheduled break in the middle of the semester somewhere, and that when the semester ends, you get a few weeks off.
Yeah, because people like really need that. Like I'm kind of learning, like, as I go through like professional life things, that like when you complete a big project or like a really critical task that you care about, like you need time to decompress after that. Like after you're done midterms at school, you need time to decompress after all of that studying and all of that testing and all that work. You need break time, and you don't really necessarily get that when you in the work world, and like just in general, like you might not necessarily get that in life, period, but people need
summer
that
break.
Yeah, I miss that too.
Me too.
Can we bring that back to like adult,
Yes, it's
adulthood?
called being a teacher. If you follow that career path, you will get that.
How about we make it a global thing? Like, how about during the holidays, we
What
have
are
special
you,
holiday
some
hours
kind
where
of
things are
socialist?
only open 3 days a week? Yes.
I like that.
If that is what it takes for me to get 3-day work weeks and 3 p.m. siesta naps,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
3 p.m. is
'Cause I want
definitely when
that.
I start struggling. It's like, wow, my brain suddenly hit a
No.
wall. What's going? Oh, right, it's 3
Back
o'clock.
to the orphan
Okay.
crushing machine with you.
Right? It's like, get back to work.
Yeah,
The old Otafest motto.
it's true.
Quick,
Haunting
where's our
us
chair?
even outside of Otafest.
This capitalist hellscape cannot be allowed to continue. I don't know. I can't do it anymore. I need to join some kind of death game that'll pay out like $2 billion or something.
Yes, and perhaps a game that I could play while learning the Korean language.
Ooh.
Actually, there
sounds-
was
So Jay, you finally finished Squid Game.
yes.
Yes.
But
Are we
before
allowed
I
to
get
spoil
this?
finish- before we get on to me finishing it and talking about like the end part of it, I watched a video because like I don't watch a lot of Korean content, but I watch like an okay amount where there's like candid like Korean conversation in it, like unscripted conversation. I haven't picked up a lot of in terms of like words, but like or like I'm not learning the language in like a standardized setting, but I am learning it in sort of like a I'm just picking up like a lot of like tonal like inferring tone and inferring like subtext of words or whatever. And there is like something about like knowing what they're talking about in Korean and how it doesn't really match up with like the English subtitles, because it's like,
Oh, yeah.
there's some really weird like I don't know,
Nuances and things like that.
nuances.
Yeah,
and
like
just
Yeah.
like
I can speak to a couple things like that. So
Yeah.
one thing I want to point out is the way that you're like picking up language by just listening to it and kind of understanding tones. Like that's actually the best way to learn language and to do language learning, because like that's how human children learn to pick up languages, right? They're able to you can't sit down a baby in a classroom and have them take notes on verbs and nouns. They learn by having people speak to them and by having them prattle and by having adults correct them on their prattling. But it definitely like helps because like I don't speak Korean at all, but I have like sort of a loose kind of understanding of Korean spoken language and a very loose understanding of Korean pop culture from consuming Korean pop culture. And definitely as a result of picking up some things, there are nuances in the spoken language and the interactions between the characters that are definitely lost in the subtitles because it's
because English, the
hard
Western
to-
culture does not have an equivalent. So things like
exactly.
this happens in like a lot of Asian culture, but like obviously we're talking about Korean.
Yeah, it happens in the anime and manga too, right?
We're talking about like the specific like sort of Korean setting, like age, respect due to age is a big one.
Yep.
That doesn't translate very well in just subtitle and just like straight text.
The lack of closeness,
Yes.
as well.
Yeah, or
is
like
one that doesn't translate over well.
things like honorifics, not necessarily in just like a Mr. and Mrs. type of
Well,
addressing.
yeah, we get that
but,
a lot
like,
in like anime too, where sometimes we get like Chan makes it in there, sensei.
Sure, but a lot of that is like still very stylized, whereas like in this kind of show where it's very, I would say it's much more raw in terms of its
and realistic
interactions.
as
Yeah.
well. Like it's
it's
a
easy
lot
to miss
less
out. And
humorous.
I would.
It's hard
maybe
to translate
Maybe
it
what I'm
over.
saying is maybe I would love a fan translated version of Squid Game where there's like translators notes in my
I kind of want that
PL's
too.
note.
Yeah.
Keikaku means plan.
exactly.
Exactly, but I kind of want that too, because like a really good example of that, one that's really hard to like. There's like a specific scene. I remember that people were discussing it, and a lot of people kind of didn't understand it. And it's where Ali. So Ali is a character.
He's the best boy.
In the show, he is the best
He
boy.
is the best
but
boy.
specifically, there's aspects of his character that are very specific to Korean culture, that I think are missed because a lot of people see him and they see that he's a brown guy, right? He's an Indian guy from India,
Actually,
and a
he's
lot of
Pakistani.
people, if you look at that, well, he's Pakistani. Sorry, thank you. That's an important correction. He's a Pakistani guy from Pakistan. In the story, that's his character. And I think if you view his character from like a North American lens, you kind of miss on the subtleties of his character. A lot of people, I think, were upset. There's a couple of scenes where he talks to sort of the main antagonist, Song Woo. He refers to him with the term with the ending nim, which is kind of like, it's translated as Mr. And later calls him Hyung, and they translate that in the subtitles as Sir. It doesn't make sense. Like, so for a lot of people were upset because it's like, why is he referring to this guy as Sir? Like, that seems kind of uncomfortable.
But
And
it's
it's
not
like, well, because
really.
in Korean he's not. In Korean he's not calling him Sir. Hyung is a term that it literally means brother. But it's kind of like it's an
Closer
expression
male.
of closeness.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a closer.
Exactly.
Specifically, it's a
Hyung
closer male friendship.
relationship. Yeah, like friend, not quite friendship, but like it's a closer male relationship, like
is-
between.
Bruh.
This is where I
So Ali
basically
thought
tell
that
you.
Song Woo was a bro among bros, and that still happened.
Yes, like
Oh my
and
God, I
that's
would hate him even more.
that's exactly the reaction that you are
And it's-
intended to have as a listener.
Yeah, and like in complete context, maybe like super big picture, because we know that Ali is Pakistani. He might be
He's a migrant worker.
He's a migrant worker. He might be an illegal immigrant as well. It's implied.
Yeah.
And obviously, when you're sort of in that situation, like you might not have a lot of people that you are close to in a foreign country. And obviously in this
Exactly.
extreme situation, he has even fewer people he can trust. So when, Sangwoo finally says like, hey, like, you can stop calling me like boss, like not, it's not boss, but it's sort of like an honor.
It's equivalent to
It's like a
boss.
business.
It's close.
It's a business level of honorific where it's like
Yeah.
you think of your supervisor or manager or
that's how
something
you would
like that, or
address your CEO.
Yeah, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, like you gotta treat them with respect. And in English,
this
we
is
just
respect.
sort of
This is
we're just
Mr.
Yeah, we just use more like polite language and Mr. Whoever or Miss whoever, but like in Korean, it's specifically denotes this this boss type of person in your relationship. And when they tell you to like, hey, you can drop that level of honorific, it should
That's a
mean
big
something.
deal.
Yeah. And generally speaking, that that's like a next level of betrayal for Ali, because he really didn't have anyone like that in the first place. So
First place,
Ugh.
and then the first when he finally gets one,
Yeah.
it's a betrayal in the end. And so that kind of stuff, and like my point exactly is like we just talked about that for what, 5 minutes? Like that's how do you?
it's very
you can't,
intricate.
You can't there's no easy way
Translators'
to summarize
notes
that
everywhere.
there's no easy way to summarize that in like a 5-second subtitle.
So what you're
right?
saying is we need to go back to fan subs.
Fan subs,
Maybe.
because fan subs are a work of passion, they tended to have a lot of great work in them, even if sometimes
I agree.
they may have lacked
Like
their
sometimes
own
they were
quality.
imperfect or flawed.
Yeah, but they tried
They were a little
harder,
clunky.
almost. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they wanted to get people. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole concept of fan subbing was like, I'm a really big fan of this thing, so I want you to be able to enjoy and understand about this thing, so that you'll be a fan of it too.
But yeah,
Yep.
in terms of the actual show, I kind of saw a bit of it coming. I wasn't like I remember talking about like last episode because you guys asked me like, oh, who's like best character or whatever, and I still like was rooting for the girl, not because I thought she was the best character, but because she still had a chance to like survive. Spoilers, she didn't make it. Spoilers, most characters don't make it. Spoilers, a character that
Indeed, that
you
is how
thought didn't
how
make it does
the
make
show
it.
is structured.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Spoilers for 299 die.
Yeah. I feel
Oh
like
my god.
one
But it's
big
the journey
thing
that matters.
that I was sort of disappointed about was that I was hoping it was a big governmental sort of organization and event, because in the archives that the police officer character sort of goes through, there are years, and we're talking about decades worth of information and missing persons, presumably, who didn't make it through, right? And because it's sort of just like a bunch of like, it's just a privately operated sort of gladiatorial jerk fest. I was kind of disappointed because it doesn't usually, that means like you can't just scrub people from existence. Even people who are down on their luck or whatever still have people that will follow up on them, care about them, that kind of thing. And they just sort of toss them into, the fire, literally, and then just said, oh, yeah, that's good enough. And even though they were picking up a lot of the folks that you could say were, either part of vulnerable populations or just maybe weren't in the government. I say the government's eyes because I want it from the government's point of view. Is like, are these people who aren't, contributing to their society, right?
I think the way that I took it, or the way that I interpreted it, is it's not necessarily like a big government thing, but it is a big business thing. That was the implication that I got. And so it's not so much that the government isn't involved, it's so much as whether they're involved or not, they don't have oversight, because the people who stand to make money off of doing these games have more power than even the government. Because there is a very strong implication that not only have these games been going on in South Korea for a long time, but also
Potentially
around
globally,
the world.
yes.
And it's sponsored by by different business people around the world who are looking for a way to, enjoy their luxury gladiator games. So the way that I interpreted it is not that the government isn't involved, but rather that the government is tiny and inefficient and almost, worthless in the face of these giant mega corporations that can do anything. And I think that makes a lot of sense if you consider sort of like the history of South Korea's development and kind of like the sort of some of the underlying pivotal events that influenced the writing of Squid Game's story. Specifically, the director and writer, he had mentioned... So the main character, Gi-hun, his sort of backstory is that he used to work for an auto company, and they all got laid off very suddenly. And when they tried to protest, the company, essentially bought off the police to suppress the riots and really hurt the people. And so he has some sort of lingering post-traumatic stress related to that, and it's kind of why he's been going from dead-end job to dead-end job, and why he ends up, gambling so much to try and make ends meet. And that was based, the director outlined that this is, kind of based on a real event where there were mass layoffs in the South Korean auto industry from a particularly very large car brand. And so I think, it not being coming from the government maybe is sort of like tying back into the larger theme of corporations.
I think the whole point is that it's reflecting the zeitgeist of the times. It's not just a Korean thing; it's that's global thing, where it's the governments aren't really the bad guy so much anymore, whereas it is the larger corporations, because in a lot of situations you see these billionaires that seem untouchable. Just off the top of my head, like Jeffrey Bezos, Elon Musk. I'm going to throw Bill Gates in there because even though he doesn't seem like as much of an asshole as the other ones, he kind of used to be.
No, he still sort of is. He's just in a different
Zuckerberg, honestly.
But anyways.
The reality is, like, the modern zeitgeist is you see these people who have so much money, so many resources that they become untouchable even from the government, and that's basically the villain of Squid Game. It's these people who have unlimited funds to do whatever the hell they want, and that's how they get elevated to that villain status, even though you can't even comprehend the scope, the scale of everything going on. Like, the amount of money required is more than most governments could do and keep quiet. And that's reflected in reality just by, and not just by any political sides. Like, if you go by a lot of the conspiracy theories going around right now, it's not, oh, the government did it. It's Bill Gates did it. It's the George Soroses of the world.
I mean, aside from
guys.
that's not new. I mean, it just used to be called
but
called the Illuminati, or like
that is
the
true.
Stonecutters or whatever,
the Freemasons or whatever.
and all that. Yeah. So like that none of that is new. But on the whole, talking about the actual show, I felt like the ending was okay. I don't really care that it was an open-ended ending because I don't really think it needs much more. Like you could be like, well, you can follow him on his path to justice or whatever. I'm like, I don't want that. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like every plot, every story, work of fiction can have plot holes. Even real life has plot holes. They're just called mistakes. But like, it's weird because why is Gihun the only person who's ever done this? Who's ever, I've won the billions and billions and billions of dollars. Why is he the first one to try and seek justice? It's like, well, that seems like a big gap because he can't be the only righteous man who's ever won, But on the whole, I'd rather.
And I'm fine with that. Like I'm fine with a whole of an ending. Like
Yeah.
I personally think it should have just ended with
Him going onto the plane.
Yes.
either him going onto the plane, or it should have just ended with his sort of like. It also like equivalently also could have ended with him that scene where he's on the riverbank at night,
Sure.
and he's like flipping
Drinking
the
and
card
stuff.
back and forth.
Yeah.
I think
Here's-
it could have ended in either of those places. I don't need more.
Here's I'm gonna bring up 3 quick things, but we're not gonna talk about it too much. Number 1, how much money do you think he gave up to the grandma and the kid?
It seemed like I couldn't. So here's the thing. I can't count, but it was a suitcase full. So I'm
Yes.
gonna guess like at least like a 24th of it or a 16th of it.
What was his winnings? Was it 410 million?
No, it was like billions.
No. It's
That's
400.
what
No,
I mean.
in
Billions
U.S. dollars,
in
U.S.
one?
dollars, Canadian dollars, it would have been about $450 million total.
Okay,
Total
okay.
is what he won.
So, two suitcases. It was 2 suitcases full of cash.
It was just
right?
one. It was
No.
one
We only
big
saw one suitcase
sort
that he
of
gave.
luggage case of
Yeah.
cash.
I'm going to pull this out of my butt. I'm going to say that it was a couple $100,000
Per?
because cash is not dense.
I think it's the
I
exact
guess, yeah,
opposite.
that
I think
depends on
cash
what
is very
kind of bills
dense.
they are.
I'm pretty sure. I'm guessing he gave up half. So like a lot of it's about context here. He also said that here is the money I owe to your son, right? So that implies
Oh, true.
that it's either half, or if he's sort
It
of
might even be 2/3.
yes, it might be 2/3 because
Then-
he feels like he owes the girl,
Yeah.
right?
I actually like that explanation. I think that.
I
makes
think
most
he
sense, like
actually,
either half
yeah.
or 2/3.
I mean, not to say that he's left with about $150,000, which is, or $150 million, which is nothing to scoff at. But it's like, I have a feeling that he left.
He gave away
a
most
lot
of it.
because you also remember how much remorse he had about it. Like he withdraws 10,000 won, which is literally about $10, and he's like, this is what I need. This is what I'm using right now. Obviously, he ends up using more of it because we see him in a suit and stuff like that later that he's all cleaned up.
Yeah, he gets a haircut
like-
and blah blah blah.
but-
I'm gonna revise. I'm gonna say it was probably around 5 million.
You think it was only 5
5
million? I
mil?
think it's a lot more. I really do. I think
I-
for one
I
thing,
thought
you
5
should look up how
yeah.
much cash can be condensed. Like it was a $50,000
I'm
note.
just thinking based on last
Which is a
time
$50
when
note.
I bought my car, my used car. I had $3.5 grand in my pocket,
Uh-huh.
and I'm just trying to remember
Made of
how
hundreds?
much money that actually
Made of
felt like.
hundreds?
Made of hundreds.
See, that wouldn't have been very much. I think in a physical form. But anyways,
30
that's
30 bills deep.
yeah. That's point number 1,
Eh.
right?
yeah, I think from a story perspective, that like 2/3 of it makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Continue.
Point number 2
What was your second point?
is, do you think he should have gotten on that plane?
Yes.
Oh yeah, like to your point exactly. Like there's, I find it hard to believe that if this is this is a thing that's been happening in Korea for decades, as evidenced by the
Yeah.
books, and we know that it's happening internationally.
Well,
as
he doesn't know that.
Sure, he doesn't know that.
Yeah.
But we, as the viewer, know that. We know that's been happening for decades, and we've been having it happen globally. There's no reason to believe that he is the first righteous person to want to be like, this system is bad.
So here's my perspective on it. He should have fucking disappeared from their sites as best as he could have, because the 450 million that he won was effectively their pocket change.
Yes, I was gonna say
It sounds like a huge amount of money to us.
it's a
But if
it's
they
a
can throw
fraction.
it
It's what they
down.
could afford to dangle as a carrot on a stick. To put into perspective, Elon Musk this week had to sell enough Tesla stock to cover his taxes. His
Wow.
taxes were 15 billion.
Yoicks.
Right?
So that is
So, like, 400
more than 30 times more What he won were just Elon Musk's taxes.
So it's like he doesn't like. Let's say we get a sequel. This guy doesn't have a hope in hell.
No, no. He could have $450 million in his pocket, and that's just their pocket change.
The only way he wins is main character syndrome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even if you're exceedingly wealthy, wealthier than more people could ever dream to be after winning the Squid Game, you are not wealthy enough to take them on.
Just get on the plane and live a happy life and make sure your daughter grows up without pain.
Right.
Because you know what? The pain of never seeing her dad again and never having her dad in her life again is far worse than just about anything else, if you can be in her life.
So anyway, I think a lot of this sums up my feelings on the fact that you need to have someone help you set up that cultural subtext because Netflix ain't going to do it for you.
Yeah, I kind of, this is kind of like weird, but I remember when I used to read tons and tons of manga, a lot of the times, either in the sort of like appendix section of the manga or even as like a foreword, there would be sort of like a cultural, like a couple of pages of just cultural breakdown and honorifics that were used. And so the honorifics would be included, right? Like your chan or your sama or your kun or things like that. But there was like a little appendix that would break down not only what they meant and why they were included, but what they meant in a broader sense of like, here's how relationships work between students in Japan, and here's how relationships work between people in an office at Japan. So that, like, you know, it gave you like a little bit of cultural background. Because I remember, like, so I have a bunch of friends who are really into Chinese dramas, and that has been, because I've never seen Chinese dramas before, there's tons of like little gaps like that where I'm like, I'm sure there's something going on here and I'm just missing it because I don't have that sort of like boilerplate of basic info.
I'm pretty sure at one point or another, I was legitimately wondering what kind of a pie a sen pie was, and what kind of a fruit a sen must be.
That's amazing. Senpai. Oh my goodness. That's
and
amazing.
that stuff is cool. It's cool to learn. Like, we live in a very connected global society. It's cool to learn about other people's cultures and kind of see how language and culture and relationships have evolved and changed and what they look like around the world. You know, things, the way that we interact with people in the workplace and at school and interpersonally here in Canada is, you know, it's different from the States, but it's not too far removed from the States, but it's very different from, you know, Japan or Korea or China, and it's also going to be very different from, you know, places like South Africa or Nigeria, and it's going to be different from places in Europe.
I, for one,
places like Brazil, and
can't wait to see all the spin-offs of Squid Game, whether it's official Squid Game or just you know, copies of
Things
Squid Game.
inspired from
I'm okay with it because like I want
Crab
to see things like you know, in different regions of the world, we've all played different but similar types of like childhood games that you could base these like survival games off of. Like in Canada, it would be like hopscotch and jump rope and grounders. And
I was going to say the floor is lava would be great for it,
Yes.
but I'm pretty sure that was actually a reality TV show.
probably. I mean,
like
Great.
that.
it's for us.
Perfect
It's
for Squid
somewhere.
Game.
It's somewhere like
Exactly.
what incorporating American Ninja Warrior, but into a battle royale instead, where people die if they lose.
yeah, it's American Ninja Warrior, but the consequence is you die.
Yep.
I heard you like monkey bars.
Oh
Here,
God.
you have to climb across these monkey bars, but there's a 500-foot drop.
Yeah.
Death
And-
trapifying all of my childhood fears. Great.
Yeah. I think
Yep.
on that note, we will also end. We have played the game,
These
which
monkeys
is
will see you
the podcast.
next week.
Yes. Next
As long as we cross all the bars.
next week's podcast is somewhat related to fall anime that I may or may not have forgotten to talk about as a setup.
Ooh.
So my bad, but it'll still be fun. Thanks for your patience.
Everything
Love
will
you.
be fine.
I was too busy, okay? I
Exactly.
was just busy. I forgot.
He was busy
Watching
just
Game of the
sitting
Squid.
in the human broth
Yes.
Be-
at the hot
Busy.
springs.
That too. That was important.
And watching Kung Fu
Indeed,
Hustle. It was
indeed.
great.
Oh,
Nice.
Yeah,
Hustle,
see,
hustle.
that's important.
Yeah.
So
We're
good.
gonna try and do a group cosplay one day of Kung Fu Hustle characters.
That would be amazing.
That was the true thing that was decided there. Anyways,
Who's gonna be the landlady?
whoever wants to be the landlady.
Is it
We
gonna be
haven't
Jay?
figured it out yet. I have a loud
'Cause
voice.
we know you look good in high heels.
You don't know that. You can't prove it. Goodbye.
Can too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.